Hey, how's it going? We've been talking about diet, intermittent fasting, and today I thought we would talk about vitamins, supplements. What are the ones that they're pretty well researched and we know that, yeah, they're good. I know there's more of them out there, like collagen is supposed to be pretty good. This is more than enough for me right here. And I take quite a few of these already. It's because I was 230 pounds. I've lost 50 pounds. And whenever I was eating 230 pounds worth of me, it was a lot of food. So for example, I would go to Taco Bell, and at the time they had this $10 deal. I think it's like 12 bucks now. And you could get 10 mix and match of hard tacos, soft tacos, and bean burritos. You could do like 3, 3, 4. You could just do all 10 of one if you wanted to. It's a little bit cheaper, and that was one meal, usually dinner. Just one meal. And I had several days like that of just excessive eating. It was a lot. It was a lot of money that I was putting into it. And so as I've lost the weight, my food bill has gone down. So it's like, okay, well then I've got more money to go ahead and do things like get vitamins and supplements to help out. And a lot of these, I've noticed something in one way or another with either joints or my energy level or whatever. So I'm creating 2 channels a day. One is practical focused improvement, and the other channel is freedom of expression. That's if you're on YouTube. Anywhere else, it's all the same. And with my self-improvement, I've given it a little spin, calling it a noble house, because go big or go home, you know. So I want to do more with the name, and I want to feel good about the work that I've done, because I honestly believe that this is good stuff to know, that all this is stuff that the school fails us with, the government fails us with. And so, yeah, I'm doing a lot of this work, and then I'm just kind of sharing you what it is that I've learned, so that not only does it help me, but it helps anyone else who's interested in all of this stuff. So if you too are interested in this and you like this kind of thing, then I would appreciate it if you would give it a like and a thumbs up. We have a few to go over. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 videos. A lot of them are pretty short though, 3, 4 minutes. There's one that's 16 minutes, but it's only going to be a couple of minutes on that one. I will link most of them out, but not all. But before we get started, I wanted to talk about how I do not buy any of this crap from China at all. And it's because they have stuff like this. So you can type in China gutter oil right here, and you can find videos where people just open up the gutter and they just start scooping out this slosh, and then they process it. And they just take this nasty, disgusting waste, and they boil it and they refine it, and they go from like this to this, and they do this on the streets. It's disgusting. And then they sell it like this too. Tell you what, to get me to eat something that is cooked in oil over there, it's like I will pay big bucks to go to a good place whenever it's cooked in oil. I will not eat from a street vendor, because they can show you bottles like this and it's like they took that out the damn sewer. And then they also had a problem with their fake eggs. Some of these people made fake eggs, and they had to start talking about how you can tell them apart.
This lady demonstrates the process for us. In fake eggs, the egg yolk is quite thin. The egg white is very thin like water as well.
Because they're using
Secondly, the
like
most
phosphorus.
distinctive part is there is no thin layer of skin in the fake egg.
And that you look for air
We
holes.
invited a person who is an expert on Chinese fake food products to comment. It is definite that man-made eggs are being sold. Compared with the real eggs, it has fourfold profits.
Yep, profits. You know, and so it's got like fake holes in them, and they're just, it's like a lab where they make these things, or some of them, you know, and they're just using chemicals. You know, it's like whatever this crap is that they're using, and so they somehow dye it yellow, and people don't know the difference, and they eat the junk, and they talk about how it needs to be transparent, that you need to be able to see through it, you know, and stuff, and it's coating and all this. So this video right here is titled Chinese Knockoffs That Can Kill You, and the YouTube channel is Serpinsa, I think might be how you say it. He is Australian who moved to China for his work. He ended up loving it. He's got a Chinese wife, he's got a couple of daughters, and just loves it there. And he's like, they're just people. There are some of them that are really great and some that are horrible. You know, it's just like any other place. And he talks about how they've got all these knockoff products that they sell, you know, and that they even do it with China. So this is a Chinese store. You Smile. And that they even knock out, and this is like their bathroom inside out. I'm telling you, ladies, if they ever talk about, well, men and women should be able to use the same bathroom or something. No, you don't want that. You don't want that at all. Because guys do this here in the U.S. I've been in way too many men's bathrooms that it was just absolute, just feces all over the place. And because one of the things that kind of explains this is whenever you look at men's IQ, yeah, they can go really out there, really smart. There's especially on the outliers, but also on the other end. Men, there might be some really smart men, but there are absolute retarded men out there. And this is them. They're just dumb as dirt. And I've met these fools in the Army, and especially whenever I was an officer out there at the prison. And it's like, man, not only do their elevators not go to the top floor, their damn elevators don't even have power. It's like nothing's going on inside those fools' heads at all. It's like, the hell did you just do? It's ridiculous. I mean, it was bad enough sometimes that whenever we were there in the Army, that it pissed off other soldiers so bad that they would throw fits and they would yell up and down the hall, "Who the hell's not flushing the toilet? I can smell this in my room and it's there. What the hell's wrong with you?" And then others would join in like, "I'm fed up too." It's like, yep. It's like, what the hell? So no, don't ever do it. Anyways. And so here is a Chinese store knocking off a Chinese store. So this is You Smiles, but they spelled smiles differently, same letters in it. And it's because they just don't care. But they also do this with food and drugs.
It's full of absolutely wonderful, friendly, hospitable people if you go into the rural areas. These are my people. Very, very friendly. Have invited us fake beverages, fake things that can affect their health, because there is still a very big wealth gap in China and a huge, vast difference between, you know,
like anywhere in the world.
And in China, the majority of people are still very poor and live in very impoverished conditions, and money means a lot. So these counterfeit products. Now, of course, these counterfeit products affect everybody, rich and poor, but the rich people generally, you know, they will go to proper shopping malls to go buy their LV bags. They'll go overseas to Paris or Italy to go buy their designer clothing. Whereas, you know, the average man on the streets of sort of the poorer, lower, middle-income people, they tend to rely on buying a lot of things online, sight unseen. And this is where the problem comes in. I'm going to talk to you about the scales of
Yeah, and so it's a little less of a problem with us in the U.S. because a lot of this is locally done with them. It's like the street vendors. They're poor, but some of it does make it out, and it's why I will not buy any food products or anything that you put in your mouth. And I tell you what, I didn't like seeing this. You see that way? That's on gold right there.
Gains?
It's what I have on Optimum Nutrition there, gold standard whey protein. I did not buy this from Amazon or eBay though. I bought this from bodybuilder.com, and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, that's like his place, and they were really showing them off at their site for a while. I don't know if he's still associated with them or not. That was quite a while ago, but they had really good prices, and they had some people that I know, like The Rock, and it's like, okay, that's good. And they're American based, but it's like none of this stuff. I will never buy. What happens is that there are people who have PayPal, and you can't use PayPal and Amazon together, and that's because they're competitors. So if you shop on Amazon, they don't have that PayPal option. But you can get around it because there are people who know this, and so they will have an Amazon account. They will post that stuff on PayPal for like $3 to $5 more. And so it's like, I just bought this lamp, and I don't have a credit card because I hate companies knowing my information, my shopping habits, and all that stuff, because just being online, that happens. I'll look at something, it's like, what's this? And then my homepage will just be flooded with all of this crap. It's like, no, I was just looking to see what it was. I wasn't interested in buying it. And also with spam mail and junk mail that comes in, the snail mail, all the time. I hate it. It's just like, no. But I bought this on eBay, and it came to me from Amazon. And I knew this. It's not the first time that I've done this. But you can also find things that cost less. So if you've been following, I bought that water flosser. Bought that on eBay, and it was $20 less than what they had on Amazon. So take it with a grain of salt. I hate credit cards. I hate big corporations, big business, all that stuff. It's like, no, you're just completely abusing me and trying to manipulate me. And it's like, no. Anyways, and it's like, it's going to show Heineken here.
Scale operations, like for instance,
in China.
Factory producing fake Heineken beer, which you can see is on a massive scale. They've got the pallets ready. They've got distribution networks. They've got trucks that will come and pick these things up and take them all over the country. So, yeah, I mean, it goes from small to big. There's a massive industry here, and it's really a sort of very core, despicable sort of group of opportunistic people who are taking advantage. And although there are, of course,
and it happens everywhere. I mean, So let's go ahead and get into this a little bit. So this is kind of the first one. Just wanted to show how this doesn't just affect you, but it also affects your children. So, I like Dr. Rhonda Patrick here, if you've been paying attention. And this video is titled, How Obese and Lazy Parents Pass on Poor Genetics to Their Children, Dr. Rhonda Patrick. And this is from Eric Drake, something like that. So let's listen to what she has to say about this.
And something I think people don't realize is that, epigenetics, which is basically the transference of, it's heritable. Like, you can transfer things that happen to you in your lifestyle without actually altering the sequence of DNA. And you can do that by changing how much gene is activated or not activated. And there's been studies, lots and lots of studies in animals showing this to be the case. Of course, that's animals and how much of that actually translates to humans. But there was a really interesting study a couple years ago, I think it was like 2015, that was published, that looked at the effect of obesity. And obesity was actually looked at not in the mothers, but the fathers. And so sperm DNA was collected from males that were obese and males that were lean.
And she's talking about really obese people, because a little bit later she's going to talk about how they did surgeries and removed a lot of the fat, and it showed improvement.
There's a variety of different genes, like hundreds of different genes that were looked at, and about 300 different genes were different in how they were activated or not activated in the sperm DNA of the obese men. And a lot of those genes had to do with cognition, learning, memory, metabolism. So that's very interesting. But what was super interesting was that these men, they were morbidly obese, or very obese. They underwent bariatric surgery.
And whenever she talks about morbidly obese with anyone, she'll usually say people who are 300 to 400 pounds, and so they were obviously large enough that they did this bariatric surgery, and it's like usually it's only really large people who will do that, because it's kind of a last ditch kind of effort that they're trying to do here. They've tried dieting and exercise, and they just, for whatever reasons, this is the option that they're left with here, or feel like they're left with.
And their sperm DNA was then collected, a couple of months after, and then like close to a year after. And as time went on, their sperm DNA looked like the lean people. So basically, losing the weight, just losing the weight, had an effect on these genes that are involved in cognition and metabolism. And like I said,
it's like that's really encouraging too, so that if you're still just really big, that you can do these changes and it has an effect. And not just for you, but for your kids, and it's like, yeah, that's great. I really like hearing stuff like that. Positive.
Of animal studies have shown obesity has a negative effect on, causing type 1 diabetes later in life and different, cognitive disabilities and things like that. So, it is something like people that are wanting to conceive might consider, their health before.
And she says it's okay if you're overweight, if you want to have kids too. And he's like, it's amazing.
Genetics through their diet and lifestyle, but
it's amazing how just doing these things can have such a profound effect. It's kind of a little small talk kind of dribble.
You're giving them a baseline here, right? Yeah. I mean, so it's definitely it's a growing field. A lot of the research is done in animals because it's really difficult to do these sorts of experiments in humans. But I think that this is sort of a proof of principle, at the very least, looking at the sperm DNA. So it's something to consider. And I've had like friends of friends that have that are overweight or obese and wanting to have children, and so it's like I try to talk to them about that in a way that's not condescending.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about that at all. You know how you don't be condescending is that you don't worry about it and you just tell the truth. You don't talk down to them, but you just tell them the truth and you just have a conversation. That's all that you have to do. And if they want to take it the wrong way, then that's on them. There's nothing you can do about it. It just means just talk. That's it. I don't understand this. These younger kids today, these younger people, they're just so scared and so timid. And it's like, no. If they're really your friends, if you really care about them, then they should be able to handle constructive criticism. And I tell you what, I'll push you right over the cliff. It's like if you think that you're going to jump all over me, because I'm legitimately having a conversation with you, and I'm not yelling at you, and I'm not talking down to you, but it's like, no, this is what I understand. It's my best advice. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's just my best advice that I have. And if you're going to treat me like trash, it's like, we're done. You know what? There's the cliff. Here's my arm. Over you go. And I'm going to go find somebody else. I don't need that at all. So, no, I got more respect for myself than that. It's like, you're not talking down to me.
Some people do have a hard time. They try to lose weight, and this affect my future child's risk for type 1 diabetes
So it's like, I know people who are overweight, and whenever I talk to them about this stuff, which I don't do it all the time, I don't hound them with it, but whenever I do, man, they're perfectly cool, because you know why? They're not stupid. They know me, and they know, and we have a conversation about it, and then, we do other things. We have conversations about everything.
Or what their IQ is, how well they're performing on learning memory tests. So,
and also avoid the horrific guilt that you feel if you didn't do that, and they're lazy because they don't have to take care of your health enough.
And Joe Rogan is just big in health. He's older than I am by quite a bit, and he's just like he just loves taking care of himself. He's just always exercising, eating, taking vitamins and supplements, and he looks real good. I mean, because he's quite a bit older, and it's like, man, if I didn't know any better, it's like, I don't know. So anyways, this one is from the YouTube channel Found My Fitness, which is hers. And this is titled A Rebuttal to Anti-Vitamin Editorial, Enough is Enough. So she read this thing. It was titled Enough is Enough. And she was like, this is stupid. And it kind of lit a fire on her under her butt and just
Dr. Rhonda Patrick here. Today I'm going to discuss the recent headline-grabbing editorial that was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. The editorial entitled, "Enough is Enough, Stop Wasting Money on Vitamin and Mineral Supplements," reviewed the topic of multivitamin use in chronic disease prevention. It served as a direct call to action for medical professionals to actively advise against the daily supplementation of multivitamins and for scientists to stop further research on the potential benefits of vitamin and mineral supplements. Now before...
She puts OMG over here because she's like, what the hell did I just read? It's like, go! Yeah!
To get started, I just want to preface this by telling you this editorial really burns me up, primarily because it ignores decades of well-done nutrition research that has demonstrated the positive benefits of micronutrient supplementation, such as vitamins D, E, B, and omega-3 fatty acids on disease prevention.
All right, go get them. Yeah, don't let people just talk this trash. Let's see here. So, I like to do these little word pads right here to show, you know, kind of what it is that I'm learning. Here's what I've gathered, you know, and tweak it however you want to fit you. Knock yourself out. I don't know you, but that's what this is supposed to be. I want to bring good information, and I obviously think that this is good because this is what I'm doing. And I'm not going to do it for a little while. This is what I'm going to do until, if it's bad, then I'll stop, or until I just find something that's better. But for the most part, all in all, this is what I am literally doing. So we've talked about dietary restriction, fasting, intermittent fasting, time restriction, time-restricted fasting, and it looks like you need to do a couple of them: intermittent fasting and time-restricted fasting. Time-restricted fasting, kind of all-time intermittent fasting a little bit. What it means, what you can do, what you can't do, what it means to be overweight, and so why you need to take this kind of seriously, your circadian rhythms, and what that means, and what to do and not to do. Did that just... sugar, and how it's just absolute pure crap. It's absolutely delicious, but for all intents and purposes, I'm considering it a drug. How to stop, some things to substitute, and now we're on vitamins. And tomorrow I'm going to do a little bit more on vitamins because I couldn't get to it all. There's so much. And then what are the changes that are going to be done to my shopping, my schedule? How am I going to implement all this information that I've taken in with this? Just like with the whole thing with oral health there. Because, for example, with that, there's two different kinds of mouthwashes. One that works on your gums, one on your teeth. So the one with the gums I'm not going to take, but maybe twice a month, because, you know, if your gum disease is gone, it's like you don't need to do it every single day. You know, it's like just once in a while. But the ones with the teeth, it's like, yeah, you want to do that one a little bit more often because you're directly eating and using your teeth every day. So this one is, yeah, so she's talking about vitamin D, B, E, and omega-3 fatty acids. And today we're going to look at vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, and magnesium. I will be looking into vitamin B tomorrow for sure. Creatine, I don't know. I have 4 of these. I have 3 that are unopened, 1 that's almost done. And with creatine, it's been around for eons, and there's like no bad effects from it whatsoever. My understanding as of right now, and it could be outdated, it's been a while since I've actually looked into it, is that there's no bad side effects at all with this. But whenever you kind of hit your limit, if you go above it, it does nothing. It just flushes out of your body. And so whenever I take this stuff, I don't take a full scoop. It's a little bit less, and then I don't take it on the weekends. They say whenever you first take it, you can kind of load on the front end, and it's where you go in and you'll take like 3 scoops for like 3 days, and then you lower it down to 2 scoops for an additional 3 days, and then you're on 1 scoop, and then you take a day or 2 off during the week. And it's like, I didn't do any of that. Like, it still costs money. I'm gonna do it, and if it takes a little bit longer, then so be it. I just didn't care. Same thing with the protein. This is like supposedly one of the best because I buy it from bodybuilder.com. They've got all kinds. They're like a really large site. They're cheaper than GNC, and so that's where I buy it because they offer these really big 10-pound bags, and if you can usually buy them 2 with a really good price on the 2, and so that's why I shop there. But you have to catch the sales, otherwise you might as well just go to GNC. And then with vitamin B, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about this. There's a few of them that are absolute trash, but a lot of them are incomplete, and it's because whenever I read the label here, it has, this is supposed to be a true vitamin B complete because it has vitamin B1, B2, B6, B12, and B5, and then it also has folic acid in it. And a lot of them, you're lucky to have half. I had to do some digging around before I found this, and I think it was finally Joe Rogan who was like, this is what I use, and it's because it's got it all. So then that way you don't have like 2 or 3, 4 different kinds of bottles of vitamin B because they've skimped out on it. It's like, no, just do it all at once. Like, well, yeah, makes sense.
And decreasing all-cause mortality, primarily due to the widespread dietary inadequacy of micronutrient intake. In a recent NHANES and CDC report published in 2012, the percent...
So this is CDC report that happened a couple of years ago. So this video was in 2014. So she's pretty young here. This is a while ago.
...of adults in the United States not taking a vitamin and mineral supplement and falling below the estimated average requirement for vitamin...
And she talks about how people are just not taking what they're supposed to, and all these bad things that happen and all the good things and the studies that back it up. And that's what all this text is right here with all this stuff. She's citing the researches and the claims and all this stuff and saying this is what's good and this enough is enough and why it's so bad. It's like she's just not saying this. She's got something that backs it up, and it's one of the things that I really like about her. You know, she's got doctors that come on. It's not some bro guy who's like, yeah, man, I've been working out, I'm taking this, been helping me, been helping you too. It's like, no, this is, she's very research based, and she knows the jargon with it. She knows the medical terminology. So whenever she's talking to these other doctors who work at research institutions and at universities with their research, she knows all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, that's what I want. Is she the best? No, but is she one of the professionals? You bet. So maybe she's not for you though. But what I have is I have professionals that I listen to. So whenever it comes to diet, nutrition, I really point towards Dr. Rhonda Patrick with a lot of this stuff. Whenever it's mental and psychological, then it's Dr. Jordan Peterson. Whenever it comes to working out, that is kind of all over the place because you have to do different. If you just do the same kind of workout all the time, then you experience kind of like this joint fatigue and you can get injured from that. And so you need to do a different set of workouts to do different motions to work out different things. So for example, if you do curls and you're gripping the bar underneath and your palms are facing up, you can do heavy weight that way or heavier. All you need to do is put your palms face down, grab the same weight, you won't be able to do it. So if your palms are up and you're putting on about as much as you can handle, where you can do a few, but barely, just put it down, put your hands on top where your palms are facing down, then try it. You won't be able to do it. It's just that one simple move of just rotating your wrists. It's a completely different thing. And that's why you need to have workout routines that you can have them for about 6 months has been my thing. Whenever I go beyond 6 months where I don't change it up or I don't take a rest, I'm going to get injured. I don't know about you, but that has definitely been my experience with that. On to the next one. Oh, actually, I was going to pass this, but you know what? This is a good example right here. So it's like, this is USA in a product video, and it's like, I don't know who the hell this girl is. This is what I'm talking about. This is a bro science, but this is a chick in this one. I wish it would have been one of those. I hate seeing those guys.
Was in this bottle was actually what my body needs.
Who are you to tell me what my body needs? You are absolutely nobody. I don't know you from a hole in the wall. Just because you have some shelves back here with some stuff doesn't mean anything. You're nobody.
If it was developed by on-staff scientists.
I don't know you either. You know what? I can buy that same damn lab coat, and I can go sit there, and I can pay two fools to sit beside me and smile.
In collaboration with leading nutrition researchers
And experts.
This is actually a little bit better because it does have their names and their titles. So, but still, I don't know these people. I just don't like these. The worst ones are the bro ones. I'll go ahead and skip it. Man, talk about luck, man. Of all the videos, it's like usually I get those things left and right because I look into this stuff. And then I get just bombarded with all this stupid, ridiculous nonsense. Anyways, this is from her again. This is Found My Fitness Clips titled Vitamin D and Omega-3 May Slow Epigenetic Aging, and this is Steve Horvath. And Steve has his PhD. He's a doctor. He's a professor of human genetics and biostatistics at UCLA's Fielding School of Public Health. And so this is kind of what he does. And so whenever she has guests on like this, it's like she's right there with him. This is a newer video. This was in December 23rd of 2020. So it's still a year old, but it's not like 8-9 years ago.
A recent randomized controlled clinical trial with vitamin D supplementation in a population that started off unhealthy. So these were obese African Americans, which were very low in vitamin D. African Americans tend to be the lowest in vitamin D because they have a natural sunscreen. And so they
because of their
4,000
skin.
IUs of vitamin D a day, and after, I can't remember how long the trial was, a certain period of time, their epigenetic clocks were measured at baseline and after, and their epigenetic clocks, the Horvath clocks.
Because the darker your skin is, it kind of acts like a sunblock, and so it's harder to get that stuff. So you have to take supplements to
The
help
sample
that.
size is small, and so it's kind of
I
like,
mean, it's an exciting finding. I think it was based on 51 people, and it's a nice finding. It would be brilliant if a simple intervention as taking a vitamin D supplement actually affected the epigenetic age.
And there's a couple of videos about vitamin D where she's talking about it, and it's like constantly about how this helps with anti-aging, and the same thing with omega-3 right here.
You know, what kind of interventions work? Could be hormones, by the way.
Right.
It could be a hormone intervention.
when you mentioned, obviously. Do you see,
But they talk about too how it's also really complicated because, for example, your gut biome has literally like thousands of microorganisms all doing different things because they're all different, and so it makes it just so difficult.
change topics here back once because the intervention trials are important. As you mentioned, it may have some effect, it may not have a big effect, but even if a combination of factors like getting your fish intake, which is shown to also
And fish, because fish too, it's like you need it for, what is this, vitamin D gives you fish, which she's talked about in these videos, and also in omega-3 fatty acids, specifically with EPA and DHA.
seems to be related to.
Yeah, interestingly, according to Grimm,
And see, I love this. She has all of this stuff. She'll put up kind of like the definitions. She'll put up some clarifications. She'll put up the studies because
we did find that people who used omega-3 supplements and fish oil, they were actually aging slowly. And we thought this was a nice little insight.
Oh, that's interesting because I take fish oil supplements.
Me too.
Yeah.
say, and both of them take fish oil supplements, and these are people who, this is their job, and it's like, yep, this is what I research, and I do it. It's like, that helps. That helps.
I want to say 6 months ago, there was a publication, really very large scale clinical trials looking at fish oil supplementation, and they did not observe any benefits. And I said, oh my God, I wasted all these years eating fish oil. Then we analyzed really an observational study.
And this problem is that you can have studies and they can be wrong and yet right. And so he talks about it.
Our problem. Our study was an epidemiological study. I want to say the Women's Health Initiative. And there we did see this association that women who took fish oil supplements were aging more slowly according to Graham.
Yeah. And I'll just add a note to that study you mentioned.
And see, and then here she's got studies here about talking about it from the New England Journal of Medicine. It's like, it's so great.
Vital D study, which was a vitamin D and omega-3 study. Yeah. There was no effect on the primary outcome, which was looking at all combined cardiovascular related events. Right. However, when you specifically looked at like heart attack versus stroke, there was a strong effect.
Oh, that's great. I love it that they're thorough like this, you know, and it seems like it's this way with everything, whether if it's politics or nutrition or whatever. There's no simple answer with any of this stuff. And so that's why you can take information and you can look at it, and it's like, well, they looked at a whole bunch, and they were like, well, we don't see any benefits from it, but it's because you're doing it wrong. If you look at specific things, such as what it's doing for your heart with cardiovascular stuff, it's like, oh yeah, there you see something, and it's significant. It's like, it's obvious. Well, good. I'm glad we're doing that. So here's a 3-minute video, and this is maximizing your mitochondria with magnesium. And so in this video, that it helps with muscle recovery, especially if you're doing HIIT. If you don't know what HIIT stands for, it is high intensity interval training. I've done that for the majority of my life, starting back in high school. We called them wind sprints back in the day, and some people call them interval training. What it was, that for cross country, you would start off and you would walk, then you would go to a jog, to a run, and then you would sprint as hard as you can, and then you would come back and you would do the same thing. And they were all divided up into equal segments. So you would run, you would walk a certain distance, and then you would kind of jog the same amount, and then you would sprint the same amount. And then whenever you got better, you would get rid of the walk, and you would do a very light jog, and then you would do a moderate run, and then you would just sprint until you could sprint no more. And if you made it to the end, you did not sprint hard enough, and you should fall short, and you should be walking at the end. And if for some reason, if you're sprinting the whole way, run faster, run harder. You failed. And that's what HIIT is. And it has to do with getting your heart pumping, your blood circulating, and your lungs and oxygen. And she talks about that, and so that it helps really well with that kind of muscle recovery whenever you're doing that kind of training. And you can get magnesium by eating dark green leafy vegetables such as spinach, kale, and also almonds. Problem with almonds is that it doesn't take a lot, and it's just, they're really nutrient dense, but there's a lot of calories in those damn little things too, and they're delicious. So it's like literally a handful. It's like 8, and that's it. You're done for the day. It's like 8. That's what these stupid things are. Maybe a little bit more, but it's not much more. Eating green leafy vegetables is hard. Kale, it's supposed to be super good for you, and it's like, this crazy woman does kale smoothies. It's like, no, absolutely not. Spinach is okay. I didn't like spinach very much. I've gotten to where I like it a little bit more. I found that it helps a lot cooking it. It's depending, there are some vegetables, depending on how you cook it. If you saute it, it takes away some of the nutrition. If you steam it, it does some of the nutrition. It depends on the vegetable, and it depends on the cooking. Now, and some of them you have to cook. Oh, which one did you have to cook? I think it was spinach you have to cook, because it causes a chemical reaction that releases the nutrients so that you can eat it. So you have to. And you have to, I think that one you have to saute it. And so it just depends. I just don't give a damn. I steam them all, because that was the one that whenever I was looking into this, that there's only like 1 or 2 vegetables that if you steam them, that you lose some of the nutrients. The sauteing one was like the worst, but there were some that you had to, so I kind of went in the middle with steaming it. It was good enough. So I'm just not going to be a micro chef and micro organize all this stuff. I don't have time for that. It's too much, too much.
Dr. Rhonda Patrick here. I'm going to explain to you how magnesium, an essential mineral that 56% of the U.S. population is deficient in, can help you maximize your mitochondria and enhance exercise performance. Has been shown to enhance exercise performance, which is the ability of your muscle cells to consume oxygen. Now, oxidative capacity not only depends on the availability of oxygen, which is what most people tend to focus on, but it also critically relies on your mitochondria, which are the tiny units really important.
And what it does is that magnesium feeds the mitochondria, so then that way they can stay up, and that we're all deficient in this stuff because we eat too much fast food and all this stuff, and it's your ATP, and that if your muscles get sore, part of that is because your mitochondria isn't able to keep up with it. So if you feed them, which is magnesium, then that helps. And I've heard this from working out, whenever I'm looking into exercising, that they'll talk about if you're sore, you're overtraining and you're going to end up getting yourself injured. And of course, the more soreness you have, the more you're overdoing it. They usually will say a little bit of soreness is okay, but if you're feeling it, then you really need to kind of think about kind of easing up a little bit. You shouldn't have much of it.
Therefore compromising your performance. The second way you can maximize your mitochondria is by making your existing mitochondria more efficient at producing ATP. It is well known that during exercise, oxidative stress damages your mitochondria and dampens their ability to produce ATP. But your mitochondria have the ability to repair this damage.
And so those are two big things that magnesium, it'll make them make new ones and to fix them, because magnesium's their jam. And I'll leave a link in the description below for this video. And I think I have it over here too. Yeah, magnesium. So if I ever wanted to watch it again, so if I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything, which I might have, but I don't care because she's my expert. So I don't have time to watch all this and just dive in detail because she's a PhD expert. She did 8 years of university college to get that, just like I can't do that with psychology like Dr. Jordan Peterson did, or all these other things, with dentistry. Just it's too much. I found a person. It's like I might check on some of her stuff every now and then to make sure that she's still all current and she hasn't let her popularity get to her and she slacks off or something. So
Dr. Rhonda Patrick here. Today we're going to talk about omega-3. Omega-3 fatty acids, especially those from fish, can reduce your risk of the world's #1 killer, cardiovascular disease. While evidence for a beneficial effect of certain omega-3s on the heart has been built,
cardiovascular disease kills more people than anything else that there is. I need to end. So just right there on the word pad, just that's right here. It's the #1 killer of people. It's cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke. It helps slow aging. And then here she's going to talk about
building for some time, and new studies suggest they can reduce your risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Omega-3 fatty acids are essential fatty acids. There are 3 key types: ALA, EPA, and DHA.
So I have that over here on the word pad. ALA is different, and you can get that from seeds and nuts. And then EPA and DHA are both found together, which are in fish.
ALA is abundant in chia and flaxseed, and also found in large quantities in walnuts, soybeans, and hemp seeds.
All right, so with me, I have heard that flax seeds and chia seeds are actually pretty good, and she has them in order here too. So it looks like flaxseed has got the most, and so if you were only able to handle one, or if none of them mattered, then choose the flaxseed. Like I said, I haven't had flax or chia seed, but supposedly they taste really good. I don't know anything about hemp seed at all. Sounds horrible. Walnuts, my grandparents had a couple walnut trees, and I liked them whenever I was younger, but I don't like them very much now. Every now and then. Canola oil, you cook with that stuff, and that's pretty good. That's fine. Soybean oil, I don't know anything about it, but it's also the worst on there right there. But I think the first two is going to be just fine with me. But there it is for anyone who's interested. And then she has, let me
and DHA are found in fatty cold water fish like salmon and cod, as well as other soybeans and hemp seeds. EPA and DHA are found in fatty cold water fish like salmon and cod, as well as other seafood and microalgae. Our body.
So she has listed wild salmon, Atlantic herring, canned sardines, which no way, no, those salty little pieces, no, not me. Mackerel and cod. I'm just not a big fish person. Wild salmon, maybe I could do a little bit of that. I'll probably end up doing a little bit of canned salmon and something. I don't know, man. That's just where I'm from. It's meat and potatoes for everyone around here. So fish was just not. Don't live along the coast, so it was just never a big thing. But she has it in order to. It looks like here. Wild salmon, Atlantic herrings #2, and then canned sardines, and mackerel and cod. And cod is just really bad, but they're like the big power hitters, I guess.
Bodies can convert some of the ALA into EPA and DHA, but it's not a very efficient process. So eating foods that are rich in EPA and DHA or supplementing can help boost your levels. Omega-3s play an important role in many processes in the body. Randomized controlled trials have shown omega-3s from fish oil increase muscle volume and strength, slow telomere shortening, and improve verbal fluency and memory.
All right. So I have some fish oil here, and I bought this quite a while ago. So vitamins and minerals never go bad, but some of them, depending on what they are, they can kind of lose their potency, but they never are just ever bad, and they're never harmful. At least I haven't found anything along those lines. I could be wrong. I guess there could be some, I guess, but I haven't found that. This is from GNC. It's called Triple Strength Fish Oil 1400 Joint Support, and that's why I took it, was for my joints. I started taking this whenever I was still overweight, and I was waking up and I was just having issues with my joints all the time. I started taking this and it stopped. I lost the weight though, and it stopped anyways. But I've been thinking about it later, especially with all these other benefits. It's like, what's it going to hurt to take it? This says that the serving size is 2 soft gel tablets. I never took 2. I always took 1. And it was like I do my other supplements. I don't take them every single damn day. I usually miss a day or two, usually the weekend. And it's like, I'm fine with that. You know, if I was really having specific problems, I'd make some kind of change with it then. And this one, it is fish oil, and it provides omega-3 fatty acids, the EPA and DHA. So it was never giving me the ALA. So what does it do? Well, it increases muscle mass, hand grip, upper lower body strength, leg power in older adults. And it says 1.5 grams DHA a day for 6 months is whenever you'll see that. And I don't know if you feel that or what, because whenever I take creatine, it'll take a couple of weeks before I notice it. But I notice it, and I run long distance. I don't notice it though. I start getting tired or start to feel the effects of being worn down about the 2-mile marker. It's whenever it kind of starts hitting, and that's whenever I'm breathing, maybe sweating a little bit, and that's whenever I notice it. But it takes a little while for it to, I guess, circulate and get in your system everywhere that it needs to go. And it says a day. I need to put that down too. Wait a minute. When was this? This was recent too, so I'm gonna add that. I thought I was going to add a little bit more, but it was just a little bit that I decided to do. And that was, depending on the dosage and effect, some effects can take up to a year of daily dosage to get results. And that's because right here, 1.8 grams of EPA plus 1.5 grams DHA per day for 6 months. And then this one, 2 grams, 0.3 grams for 4 months. This one is 3.3 of EPA, and both of them 3.3 grams of both of them per day for a year. So just kind of a note on this stuff. And that I hope it works with improved verbal fluency, language memory, visual motor coordination, because in the past year I've noticed that my jaw, my lips or whatever just do not want to cooperate. About once a month I get together with the fellas, and we just end up having a good time, just kind of cutting up and having fun, and we're not done until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just kind of BSing. My mind knows what the hell it is that I want to say, and it's just fine, but my jaw just didn't want to do it for some reason. I don't know. So hopefully this will help with it. It'll happen whenever it's really, really late at night or early in the morning, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And especially, too, if it's cold. So, I don't know.
Memory and visual motor coordination. But for today, I want to focus on the role of omega-3s in heart health. The suggestion that omega-3s might protect the heart came more than 40 years ago, when scientists found Greenlandic Inuit had very high blood levels of omega-3s and virtually no heart disease. This had been
yeah. I wonder why they're eating a lot of fish. What, are they surrounded by an ocean?
Attributed to their diets, which are rich in fatty fish and seafood, providing a source of EPA and DHA. While the study's claims about heart disease rates in Inuit has since been called into question, it nevertheless inspired decades of research. But since then, studies have been inconsistent in showing the health benefits for omega-3s. This may be partially due to differences in study design, especially when they rely on people self-reporting how much fish they ate. People often misjudge how much or how often they eat a particular food, and the amount of omega-3s in fish can vary quite a bit too. But blood levels can provide a much more accurate measure of how much omega-3s a person.
Yeah, I'm not doing blood levels and all that stuff. And so she just goes more into it about, you know, how good it is. I'm sold on it. I'll have a link down there again for this, so if you want to watch the whole video in its entirety. But she's promoting it, in other words. This one is about 4 minutes 30 seconds, and this is the vitamin D sweet spot and its relationship to aging.
Dr. Rhonda Patrick here. Today we're going to discuss how vitamin D can affect the way you age. But first, let's cover some of the basics. Vitamin D is actually a steroid hormone that controls the expression of
a steroid hormone. Now, I know there's a lot of different kinds of steroids out there. Whenever my mom was dealing with cancer, it came back 16 years later. You have a blood barrier that protects your head from foreign things in your body. It got past it. It formed a tumor in her head. They did brain surgery on her, and to recover, they put her on a steroid. Steroids help you recover quicker. It's why people who exercise will take steroids. Whenever you exercise, you're putting a bunch of small little micro tears in your muscle, and so whenever you're on steroids, it helps repair that even quicker, so you get gains better. But it's because they happen faster, they're bigger gains. Anyways, I wonder if this is the same kind of steroid, because there's a lot of different steroids. Some are more severe than others. Some of them they will prescribe to you. Others they won't touch with a 10-foot pole. So I'm just curious to hear that, but little food for thought.
Over 1,000 different genes in your body. What that translates to is vitamin D.
And I put that down to vitamin D. It's a steroid hormone that affects thousands of different genes in your body. And then I did put this video down. It's called the vitamin D sweet spot and its relationship to aging, and the link to the YouTube channel. She talks about eating mushrooms, fish again, and that you get a lot of your vitamin D from sun, that you need about 15 to 30 minutes depending on how cloudy it is, where it is that you live, and that whenever you are doing that 15 to 30 minutes, don't use sunscreen, because that blocks out this radiation that you need, and that you also want to keep up you want to keep fat off, because it gets stored in the fat instead of released into the body. And she talks about how studies have shown 4,000 to 10,000 IUs per day. That there have been studies that have shown people who have 10,000 IUs intake a day, and nothing happens to them. It's like they're just fine.
actually controls over 1,000 different physiological processes inside of your body. The primary source of vitamin D is.
And so it's actually a hormone, and steroids is a hormone, controls over 1,000 genes, and that's just with your gut biome. There's thousands of little microorganisms that live in your gut, and they just eat and do all kinds of different things. That's why you need a diversity of fiber. So vitamin D is affecting thousands of these things, and we're deficient because we're not eating enough fish and we're not getting enough sun because we're inside playing video games, watching YouTube videos, screwing around on the computer, TV shows, movies, whatever. Like, we are not getting nearly as much sun as we used
is
to.
UVB radiation. Our skin can make vitamin D upon exposure to UVB radiation. And in fact, we are not unique to this ability. Mushrooms also have the ability to make vitamin D upon UVB radiation exposure. And mushrooms that have been out in the sun are actually a great source of vitamin D. There are a few factors that affect the ability of our body to produce and use vitamin D. First is sunscreen. Sunscreen blocks UVB radiation. Second is skin pigmentation. Melanin is a natural sunscreen.
Yeah, and so she talks about this, that the darker your skin is, if you're living further away from the equator, you really need to be taking some kind of supplement to help with all that. And that the lighter skin you are and the closer you're living to the equator where it's just sun blasting you, you have kind of the opposite effect, because that melanin helps protect you from getting overdose from radiation. So if you're light skinned like I am, like most of us are, who are probably watching, you're just going to get screwed over and get things like skin cancer. So you don't want to go too far south, and if you do, you better be using that sunscreen. So it's all doable, but you just need to be aware so you can do what you need to do to take care of yourself.
Third is age. As we age, our body becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D, such that a 70-year-old produces 4 times less vitamin D than a 20-year-old. And last is body fat. Body fat actually affects the ability of our body to use vitamin D by reducing the bioavailability of vitamin D, which is fat soluble. So the more fat that you have, the more.
So if you want to watch the rest of it, you can, but that's kind of good enough right there. And she talks about in this one 4,000 IUs. This one though was done in 2013, and that it also helps protect your telomeres, and that's on the end of your DNA. And whenever you lose your telomeres, your cells die, and whenever enough of them die, you die. I was like, that's pretty good to do right there.
There's been some really interesting data.
And then this is about kind of the thing that the government's pushing on everybody right now, and some other things that you can do to help deal with that.
Looking at, like, there's in the Philippines and Indonesia, where else? I think New Orleans as well. They've looked at patients that have died and their vitamin D levels, and basically, like in the Philippines, people that for like every standard deviation increase in vitamin D levels, serum vitamin D levels, the people had like an 8% or were 8 times less likely to have a severe form of COVID-19, and if they were 20 times less likely to have critical form of COVID-19.
Whoa.
So that was the Philippines. In the Indonesia was a really interesting study where like they measured vitamin D, and this was measured in the patients. There's been some vitamin D studies also where they're like looking at countries that have been affected the worst, and they all like have low vitamin D, and it's like, okay, well, anyway, that's a correlation. But well, so is this, but a little stronger data. In Indonesia, patients that died, almost 100%, like 98% of patients that died from COVID-19 were vitamin D deficient. 4% of patients that died from COVID-19 were vitamin D sufficient, or sorry, 4%, only 4% were vitamin D sufficient. So basically, they were all vitamin D deficient, all the ones that are dying.
Whoa.
Crazy, right? Right now, I'm taking 5,000 times a day. 70.
And so I have, so he has it here too. This is new research about vitamins D3, K2, and C. I don't know why he put vitamin C in there. She does not mention vitamin C. If she did, then I guess I just missed it. She talks mainly about vitamin D3, a little bit about K1 and K2. What did she say? K1 you get by eating dark leafy greens. Let me add that. So K1, dark leafy greens, and it's like, if you're not eating dark leafy greens, you really need to push yourself to do it. Even if it's just a little bit, you got to start somewhere. I do not suggest just having a raw salad of dark green leafy vegetables. that makes me want to puke my guts out. I can't do it. I have to cook it, flavor it a little bit, at least with salt and pepper, and I can do that. That I can do. I just didn't snap my fingers and make that happen. I gradually kind of worked at it. I fight with it. And then for vitamin K2, stuff like NATO or NATO, man, that I'm not touching that. That stuff just, everybody claims that just smells so horrible, and it's just sticky, weird, slimy. It's like, I don't think I can get around it. Anyways, this is vitamin D3, and this is 125 micrograms there. It is 5,000 IUs. It's like, because I want to make sure that I'm getting enough. She makes it sound like 4,000 is kind of the minimum, but studies have shown people taking 10,000 with no problems. And with a lot of these, like with the fish oil, it says here that you can take up to 2 capsules, but if you take like the whole bottle, it does nothing. It just passes through your system. At least the last that I heard on it. So you can't overdose, but it doesn't do you any good to do it anyways. You're just wasting money. So I only do one. They're already pretty expensive, you know, because this canister's like $30 for 30 days worth. And whenever you're doing all of these things, it starts to add up. The best way is just eat the foods if you like them, and if you don't like them, then your second best thing would be to take the supplements for the stuff.
80% of the U.S. population has insufficient vitamin D levels, which is considered less than blood levels less than 30 nanograms per milliliter. The problem is that we don't go outside anymore, and like 28% of the U.S. population is actually deficient.
So, and that is, you know, encouraging to hear. You know that one of the things that you can do is just go outside. So. And then here she's talking about African Americans here are severely deficient with this stuff. And it's part of the reason why they're getting hit with COVID more, because of the melanin in their skin. And so, you know, the darker your skin is, the more time you have to spend inside. Or really what would be better is just, you know, to make sure that you're getting it is take vitamin D. And it's like, that's great to know. You know, I want to know the same thing, you know, for me, you know, and they're like, yeah, if you're a white person and you're living, you know, along the equator, it's like, you better slap on that sunscreen. It's like, great, thanks for telling me. It's like, I do not want cancer. Saw my mom go through that. I do not want that at all. And then she talked about how in Sweden here, there are those, Somalis, and they're having a really hard time with it because they're extremely dark. And I'm not eating that, and that NATO crap bean. It's just nothing about that looks good. But a little later, she finally starts talking about K1 and K2, and that it helps with lung damage too. So maybe that K1, I don't know about the K2. There's just so much of this crap. And it's like, it sounds really good, and it seems like it is. I don't know. I'm going to look into it a little bit tomorrow and round it up and be like, all right, well, here's what I'm doing, and here's what I found out. And so if you found this helpful, because I tell you what, it took a lot of time to do all this stuff, and so I did a lot of this so that you don't have to, because I enjoy it whenever people like this. Making a dumb face here. I like it whenever people do this, and that's exactly what she did. You know, she went and she did all this studying and all of this work so that we don't have to, so that we can gain the benefits from her work. And it's like, that's great. And now that's what I'm also kind of doing, is that I want it condensed even more. I wish this was already going on, where there was one place where it was all here and it was all vetted and blue check marks, certified, checks and balances all over the place, where the system was just like really soundproof. It was like, just checks all over the place, just and micro checks and balances, because I have such trust issues. But if it was there, and I think I've really got something just fantastic with it, because I just don't trust. And I'm found a way to kind of monetize it, so great. If you found this information helpful and you are interested in this too, and this made sense, then I would appreciate your help. If you would like this video and subscribe and become a member, just those two things, you can change your mind later. I would appreciate that. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again later. Bye.